A devastating piece of information has just blown up our team's plans for 2026, and the management is being pushed into a radical market decision that absolutely no one saw coming. We have suffered a catastrophic loss in one of the most vital positions on the field, and a completely unexpected substitute has just been hastily appointed to take over this position. But pay close attention to what's happening behind the scenes. If this last-minute gamble fails to establish itself as a starter, the Commanders are already gearing up a Plan B aggressive to seek help from outside. And it doesn't stop there. You know that player of ours with the $1 million contract. The coaching staff is implementing an unprecedented and extremely creative strategy to try to save his career once and for all. The big problem that nobody's talking about? This crazy plan may be asking too much of a guy who has never lived up to our expectations. Leave a like on the video. It's just a click and it helps me a lot. Professional football is full of stories of players who receive huge contracts and don't deliver as expected. Javon Kinlaw is one such case that has left many fans frustrated. When Adam Peters decided to invest $45 million in him, the expectation was for a transformative player on the defensive line. But so far, Kinlaw has not managed to justify this significant investment that the general manager made in 2025. The good news is that Durante Jones, the new defensive coordinator, is developing a completely different plan to utilize the player. Instead of expecting Kinlaw to be a traditional defensive end, Jones is creating a versatile approach that places him in various positions. This shows creativity and a willingness to find innovative ways to leverage the available talent. Kinlaw is excited about this new approach. During an interview after a recent practice, he explained how he is playing in different defensive techniques. He mentioned being in shade positions, 2 techniques, 3, 4, 5, and 6. For someone who was used to a more limited role, this versatility represents a real opportunity to impact the game in different ways. The system that Jones learned from Brian Flores in Minnesota is more sophisticated than what was previously used. Instead of just moving Kinlaw from side to side, Jones is using complex defensive movements to create confusion in opposing offenses. This opens up space for favorable one-on-one matchups where Kinlaw's size and strength can make a difference. The strategy includes positioning him in techniques that exploit his strengths. When he's in the 3-technique position, attacking the space between the guard and the offensive tackle, he can use his speed to pressure the quarterback. When he's in other positions, he can create free pressure routes for edge rushers like Odafe Oweh and Kelevon Chason to attack from the sides. What makes this approach particularly interesting is how Kinlaw will be used in the shade position. This technique places the player in the A-gap between the guard and center, positioned closer to the player who has his hand on the ball. Darren Payne typically occupies this position, but the fact that Kinlaw is getting repetitions here suggests that Jones is thinking creatively about how to maximize defensive potential. It's not just about Kinlaw, though. Jones is implementing a similar plan for Payne, keeping both in constant motion. This continuous movement should create more opportunities for decisive plays. However, there is a functional side to this strategy that cannot be overlooked. Players like Javon Hargrave, who worked with Jones in Minnesota, mentioned that sometimes defensive tackles need to serve as bait for pressure strategies. This means that Kinlaw may be absorbing double teams to open up space for linebackers to attack on blitzes. It's a necessary role, but less glamorous than making sacks. For this strategy to work fully, Kinlaw will need to embrace this functional role while taking advantage of opportunities to make impactful plays when they arise. The Washington Commanders returned to practice on Monday wearing full protective gear. The team was preparing for a joint practice with the Miami Dolphins on Wednesday. However, head coach Dan Quinn brought disturbing news about Laremy Tonsel. The All-Pro's triceps injury will require surgery, sidelining him for at least 4 months. This injury completely changes the plans for the offensive line. Tonsel is the blindside protector for Jaden Daniels, the most critical position on the line. His absence leaves a significant void that is not easy to fill. Brandon Coleman, who held the position before Tonsel arrived, will have the first opportunity to reclaim the left tackle role. Coleman had a decent performance on his first day as a starter. He showed firmness in a rush against Odafe Oweh, preventing him from getting through the line. Although no one expects Coleman to become a Tonsel overnight, the team is desperate for him to be competent enough to keep the position stable. Andrew Wiley also practiced as a left tackle, offering another option, but his limited experience in the position in official games is a concern. Jaden Daniels continued his impressive progression on Monday. On the first snap of a long second down play, he attacked the defense deep and connected with Dyami Brown for a touchdown in the corner of the end zone. These plays show that the quarterback is comfortable enough in the new offense to attack downfield, not just producing efficient short passes. On another play, Daniels found Stefon Diggs near the sideline with a perfectly placed pass beyond Leo Chenal. His workload continues to increase, as does the difficulty of the passes he is involved in. This is a positive sign that the offense is progressing well, despite the issues on the offensive line. Joshua Josephs continued his impressive streak on defense. He managed to bring down Marcus Mariota during practice, maintaining his pattern of solid performances. Antonio Hamilton Sr. also stood out, intercepting a pass from Mariota and returning it for a touchdown. These performances are exactly the type of display the coaching staff seeks from players fighting for playing time. The competition for the kicker position completely fell apart on Monday. Jake Moody hit only 2 of 6 kicks, missing 4 consecutive field goals from various distances. Drew Stevens did not fare much better, hitting 3 of 6 and missing kicks from 39, 51, and 55 yards. Moody has entered a very rough phase, with 11 misses in the last 4 practices after starting the preseason tied with Stevens. Stevens still holds the overall edge due to the greater number of successful attempts. However, his first truly bad day prevents the competition from fully defining itself before the joint practice and preseason debut. Both kickers had opportunities to stand out and did not capitalize. A troubling pattern has begun to emerge in Washington's offense. What once seemed like a sloppy practice on Saturday is now starting to look like a trend. The team committed 6 penalties before the snap in the last 2 practices. The most recent occurred on third down during a 2-minute drill on Monday. These procedural lapses are exactly the kind of mistake that can sabotage a campaign that would be successful. A penalty on third down during a 2-minute situation is particularly detrimental. This is something that needs to be worked on in the upcoming sessions, including against Miami on Wednesday. This joint practice will be a perfect opportunity to have another defense creating communication and pre-snap variables. Monday offered an encouraging first step in the search for Tonsel's replacement. While Coleman is far from perfect, he provides the team with someone who is already trusted within the organization. With Jaden Daniels progressing in the right direction, the team needs to re-establish the kicking competition and address the issue of penalties before the snap. The training period is often a time of joy for NFL fans. After 6 months of waiting, we finally have football again. But for the fans of some unfortunate teams, the training period also means serious injuries. On Saturday, the Washington Commanders became one of those teams when Laramie Tonsel suffered an injury that could end his season. In a video, Tonsel is seen holding his left arm in pain after a pressure play executed by Odafe Owa. On Monday morning, Dan Quinn informed reporters that the All-Pro will undergo surgery to repair a bicep injury. The recovery time is estimated at least 4 months, meaning Tonsel could miss nearly the entire season. Tonsel had just signed a 2-year contract extension worth $60.2 million during the preseason. The irony of suffering an injury right after securing his financial future is particularly cruel. On Monday, the team formalized its plan for the future, naming Brandon Coleman as the replacement until Tonsel returns. The most obvious bad news is that Tonsel will be sidelined for at least 4 months and could easily miss the entire season. As the blindside protector for Jaden Daniels, he is by far the most important piece of the offensive line. He is certainly being paid like one of the best in the area, but this injury has a much larger impact than just the physical pressure it puts on the team. Tonsel is in his 2nd year with the Commanders and has been much more than just a star player. He has been a solid mentor for the younger offensive line players, specifically for Josh Connerly at right tackle and for Brandon Coleman as a backup. Tonsel has been seen numerous times giving private lessons to Coleman, also a former first-round draft pick, before practices. During his last years in Houston, one of the criticisms was that he did not assume a leadership role. But in Washington, he has fully embraced the role of veteran leader. Coleman stated that he appreciates having Tonsel around not only to help with technique, but also with nutrition and professional preparation. The Commanders are not only losing one of the best tackles in the league, but also an invaluable presence in the locker room for the growth of young players. The Commanders do not want Daniels to feel obligated to be Superman all the time, as he was forced to do in the past. Stability in the offensive line contributes significantly to that goal. The good news is there are several options, both internal and external, to replace Tonsel. The Commanders selected Coleman in the 3rd round of the draft with the intention of making him their long-term starter. However, things have not gone as expected for the former TCU player. Coleman arrived at the start of the preseason competing for the starting left guard position, but he has the physical build and background necessary to play as a left tackle. He was a starter in 18 games as a left tackle in his professional career, but he was only a starter in that position 3 times last season after the team signed Tonsel. Dan Quinn stated that when these difficult scenarios arise, they provide opportunities. Coleman has already won many titles playing as a left tackle here, and the team knows he's ready for it. He had an excellent preseason, and the roster has a lot of confidence in him. Quinn stated that Coleman's athleticism was one of his key attributes. When asked if the team was seeking outside help, he replied, "Not today." This suggests that things may change in the future. If they decide to go that route, Taylor Decker spent 10 seasons as the left tackle for the Detroit Lions, and in the last 5, was the blindside protector for one of the most potent offenses in the league. The Lions released Decker in March, reportedly at his request, after failing to reach an agreement on a new contract. The former first-round draft pick has only one Pro Bowl appearance, but it was a recent one in 2024. He had a dip in performance last season, allowing 33 pressures in 14 games while battling an injury, but he now claims to be healthy and ready to return to a Pro Bowl-worthy level. Regardless of whether the Commanders stick with Coleman or opt for an outside signing, they have options to salvage the season. The loss of Tonsel is a big blow, and the team will miss him, but the NFL is the ultimate sport, where the next man up always steps in. It's time for someone to take responsibility. So, fans, after learning how Durante Jones is implementing a creative strategy to finally justify Javon Kinlaw's massive contract, understanding how Brandon Coleman was named to replace Laramie Tonsel after his devastating injury, and knowing that the Commanders might be on the brink of seeking outside help, which of these situations leaves you more hopeful or concerned? Do you believe Kinlaw will finally thrive under Jones's new plan and justify his investment? Or will the creative strategy not be enough to transform a player who has never met expectations? And more importantly, do you trust that Coleman can establish himself as a competent left tackle and adequately protect Daniels throughout the entire season? Or will the lack of consistent experience in the position hinder him when facing elite pass rushers? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I want to know what you think about the future of the Washington Commanders.